Thank you for staying with us. So let's begin today talking about the expansion of Nigeria's GDP by 5.01% as against 0.5% in the first quarter of the same year. So I have with me an economist, Dr. Saze Iyuha. Thank you for coming on the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you too.
Afternoon, viewers.
So, Nigeria's GDP expanding by 5.01%. Ordinarily, that should make us very happy. But how do you think the NBS came by that expansion of 5.01%? That's huge.
Yes, the report that was given by NBS has generated mixed feelings, really. Yeah, but it's I also have my opinions about the way that figure was arrived at, but without going into so many conspiracies, I want to just explain that it's a year-on-year growth. It's looking at quarter 2 2020 compared to quarter 2 2021. So it's a year-on-year. It's really not quarter after quarter. So it's not like quarter 1 2021 to quarter 2 2021. So when you consider the fact that in quarter 2 2020 we were in a very deep hole at minus 6.1, so you can see why it sounded like a very impressive growth. But the truth is, honestly, as an economist, from my personal view, there's really nothing much to celebrate about. Yeah, we've had other people, especially those in government, celebrate about. Well, it's really nothing to celebrate because the economy was in a deep hole. We were coming from a period of shutdown, lockdown. The economy was literally sleeping, so 5.1 from a very negative minus 6.0. So that's why the increase looks impressive.
Like it's huge.
Really like it's huge, but it's really, I won't call it growth. I would just say recovery. Okay. Because if you even see the figures, some of the figures that gave rise or gave birth to this 5.10, you see that most of the figures in this quarter were even less impressive than during the pandemic. For example, telecommunications. During the pandemic, this quarter 2 2020, telecommunication was about 18.01% growth. But in this quarter 2, it fell to 5.9%. So that's over 150% drop.
Because a lot of persons were now having to face business as against relying on
the
telecom.
Economy was almost reliant on telecom, and also the SIM card registration that was stopped by government for over about 3 months.
Okay.
So it affected. We came here and we said they lost over 1 point something billion.
Yes.
So agriculture too. During the pandemic, quarter 2 2020, agriculture was 1.4, and during this quarter it's about 1.38. So most of the sectors dropped. Petroleum was about minus 6.33 during the pandemic. It dropped to minus 12.65. That's 100% drop. So it's even the economy almost even performed, at least key sectors almost performed poorly, even in this quarter. But because of the fact that we were coming from a lockdown, the economy was shut down. Literally, was shut down. So that's why you see that. With the fact that the economy was open, so the economic activity just came back to, I'll call status quo. So I won't call it growth per se. You see, transport sector, during the pandemic, it was closed. Aeroplanes were in hangars. We know the transport lines along Ugbo, they all had their vehicles parked. It was minus 51%. So you can see it grew by 92%. It's not really like new buses were bought on the road, but the fact that all
more activity, they had more activity.
Exactly. So that's the point. So it's really not growth. So it's just recovery, economy coming back to status quo from minus 6 to 5.0. So you can just say it's about 1% sort of. So it also means that we need to still do more work because we are still hovering in the. When you're looking at quarter on quarter, we are still hovering in the region of 0.6, 0.1. So, the economy still has to do much. I'm not excited personally as an economist.
Okay.
And if you ask me, I would say that we are still we are still moving from one. We are still dealing with primary product, primary sectors.
Okay.
And it gives me heartache. You know, I've said it here so many times. The fact that we are not going into a manufacturing. You know, we still hear governments who is supposed to lead us telling us that we should leave oil. Oil is now obsolete. You now have new sources of energy, solar. We should go back to the farm, and it aches me because we came from the farms in the 60s before oil came, and where were we?
Is it going to the farms that is actually the issue, or the type of farming we would do? Yeah,
the type of farming really, and what are we doing with these farming products?
Because we're still on subsistence kind of farming, and that would not give us much.
Is subsistence. And what are we doing with the farming products? Are we selling our cassavas, cocoa, wholesale out of the country? How much does that give you? You sell a pod of cocoa for probably, I don't know how much. Then that cocoa can be used to produce cartons of bars of chocolate. And that chocolate comes and you buy it for millions of dollars.
So processing is what we should be looking at.
Processing.
Okay.
Manufacturing, secondary production. That's the point. And it seems like we are not moving in direction. I was reading a World Bank enterprise survey report of 2019, and they said between 1999 and 2009, about 300 companies folded up in the country. And Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, of course, they can give us the best data. Their statistics department showed that between 2015 and 2017, 196 companies folded up. Some relocated to Ghana. So that's really appalling. And it's very easy to look. Where are the Pojo Nigeria of this world? Pojo Nigeria was set up in 1975 in Kaduna. Volkswagen Nigeria was set up in 1978. Anambra Motor Manufacturing Company was set up in 1980. So you could see the trend, 75, 78, 80. None of these companies, Pojo, Volkswagen, Anambra Motor Manufacturing, none of them are functioning in Nigeria currently. You have Leonard Motors, Fiat, they were all, there's this Steyr Nigeria Limited. It was in Bauchi that makes this Steyr motors. We call them Agbege or Gedu in our local palace. They are folded up. There was also this manufacturing truck manufacturers of Nigeria. They are all out of the country. I remember there was Philips. The first television my parents bought then was Philips, a Philips television. The Philips company was in somewhere around Ojota. I remember when I served in Lagos, I still saw the building about 10, 15 years ago. Now it's a warehouse. Adewale Electronics. There are so many. The textile industries, in fact, you can't talk about that one. The report also showed that between 2015 and 2019, 60 textile companies folded in Nigeria.
Okay.
This year of Abba Textiles, Asaba Textile Mills, Odua Textile Mills in Ekiti. Even
so our manufacturing has not been going much in Nigeria.
In fact, it has been contributing negatively, except one or few years where you have about 2 or 3%. And that's the way to go.
Okay.
I cannot think of any developed economy. I don't know if I will have to put that has developed without manufacturing. That's why the other name you call developed economies, industrialized economies.
Okay. You look because there are industries actually.
That's what drives the economy.
Okay, towards becoming an industrialized nation, now there are special economic zones created in Nigeria of recent. In states like Lagos, Kwara, and Katsina, 3 new approved special economic zones were created. Now, do you think that's the way to go? We should have this duplicated in every part of the country and not just in some states that may be considered economic hubs?
Yeah, I think that would be that's a what's the word now? It's kind of a short-term measure because. When you open special economic zones, the the acknowledgement is that whatever you cannot put out infrastructures and so on a large scale for the country. So you are setting up the right infrastructure in a limited area, so that whatever should have been done in the large scale of the country now. You are now putting it probably in Lekki, for example. You provide all the companies need power, good roads, and so on, because that has been the bane of our industrialization in Nigeria. The fact that power is absent, there's little or nothing to call power in Nigeria. You talk about roads, you have companies having to run on generator probably 22 hours of the day. And probably you hardly have land around the road, so the companies go to locate inside streets where most times they are coming out with their products. You have their trucks getting spoiled along the road. So that's why you have this economic zone, special economic zone. The federal government just said it had approved 6, but 3 will be fixed or will be developed this year, this fiscal year. So I think one is to be in Lagos, specifically Lekki, to handle healthcare. So for the plan is that medical centers, hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, laboratories, large scale
will be sited there.
To those areas. So there will be flexible or a relaxed regulation, especially tax regime. So companies within this zone could import 0%, that import duty free, customs duty free, other regulations that apply, even VAT. They'll be given 15 years holidays. That's what usually obtains. Usually the first 5 years will be 0% tax. Then probably the next 5 years will be less than 50%. So those are then also in those areas there will be regulations on workers going on strike. So the workers in these companies will not have any reason. In fact, there will be no workers union. So it's just all to encourage companies in these special zones, is to encourage investment in these areas, foreign investment, because healthcare really, I was looking at the American GDP figures. The highest contributor to the American GDP is the healthcare. Healthcare it was shown that within 2006 to 2016, the healthcare sector in America provided 20 million new jobs. 20 million, that's about 18% of employment that was provided. So it's something that it also shows that it's most of the underdeveloped countries that are carrying medical tourism. We are going to develop these other countries. So it's a nice development if it can be sustained, and also it will depend on our business environment. Yeah, because you see this VAT war that we have now. It's affecting the companies
We'll go to the VAT war, but so they would not be, those in the special economic zones would not be affected by the VAT war. But in also setting up economic zones, although a different name has been given to this, the president actually approved farm estates in 109 senatorial districts across the country in the course of the week. Now, do you think these farm estates would also do for the agricultural sector what the special economic zones would do for other businesses?
Yeah, it expectedly should, but all depends on what government plans for these areas are. So it's so that it's not just setting up or making policy pronouncements. Rather, what are the infrastructures that will be put in these farm estates? Is government going to provide all the mechanized equipment that are needed? The roads, then also it goes beyond just producing. What's government's plan about excess supply? When you have excess supply, and that's what makes agriculture in developed countries so attractive, because government buys during overproduction so that the farmers don't lose. Then during scarcity they sell for them. So like the special economic zone in Katsina, it's supposed to be earmarked for cotton and textiles. That's the plan. Then the one in Kwara is supposed to be is earmarked for agro-allied industry. So that's where this could also come. So if you have estates, or if you have farm projects, mechanized projects that are doing well, so you have these companies set up in the special economic zone in Kwara State. So you now have those who produce these farms on these crops on a large scale. They bring their products to the agro-allied companies in the special economic zones, so that they have enough to produce. And agro-allied, of course, it goes beyond cassava, and we talk about beverages from cocoa. You talk about gari mills. You talk about cassava mills. So you have byproducts from agriculture set up in the. So if government is pursuing these policies the right way, then I think the special economic zones, it could be the way to go. Then you talk about bringing it to other states, then that would be a nice idea. I think the states on their own can it's a laudable project that they themselves should also work at. Yeah, so if you have different states, create an area, probably wherever in Edo State, the government sets up an area and provides everything that you would probably want in in an ideal economy, in developed economies.
Okay, you just have like a hub.
Yes, exactly, and we have an industrial hub, but not just, you know, sometimes we just call them names without the actual facilities there. So you talk of road, you talk of water, you talk of good road networks, not just only within, but linkages to the town.
Okay,
so,
I was coming to that because what we seem to find is that even when these things are done on a small scale by maybe state governments, as we have in Edo State, is the concentration is basically power, provision of power and workspace, but the other infrastructure to go together are not there.
That's where the linkages come. So it's not just providing those industries within the economic zone, but the linkages, because they are not going to be consuming their products. It's going to be taken outside. So it has to be enough production to the point that it satisfies domestic needs and also meets exportation needs. Because an economy can only export what it has excess of. So export obviously is excess consumption, domestic consumption. So we would expect that those linkages to the towns would all be set up with.
Okay, sorry to cut in, but do you think town planning has a role in this? Because in industrialized nations where you have commercial areas, you have residential areas, it's like these things are just easy. So in the commercial areas, certain infrastructure are provided that makes it easy for business to just go around. Unlike where we have a mixture of residential areas and commercial areas. So even in power, you don't even know what to allocate to certain area because you have a blend of a residential area and of course the commercial area. So it's like you don't know which facility to put in place until we have a clear-cut definition of which should be which. So how does town planning come?
Yes, I think it speaks to the fact that we have modeled up almost everything in our town planning. You go to countries, I know of Italy, I know of Canada, there are areas that are specifically designated for industries. You don't see residential areas in those areas. There are areas that are specifically designated for banks. You have areas that, so industrial, that's what they call industrial settlements. There are names, countries that you have industrial settlements. It's just for industries. So government knows how to allocate power to those areas, you know. So even if it's a country where you have shortage of power like Nigeria, then you can concentrate a higher megawatts or whatever to those areas where you have designated as industrial hubs or industrial settlements. So you have workers who work in those industries, you have banks attached to them. So that's really the way to go. Instead of you have one expanse of land within a residential area and you have a company come to set up, even the pollution, the noise and everything around that area. So I think town planning has a very serious, but how do we go back to the whole settlement plan has been modeled up. So it will take a reorganization of, but it's really not difficult. I think we still have our rural areas. You drive out of Benin, you see expanse of land from here to Ore, or is it Akure, is it Naifo? You have Igobazua, you have so much expanse of land. So I don't think it's really a problem. It's just the political will to set up those industrial hubs in those places instead of being haphazard about our planning. So I think it's doable. Planning or no town plan, Nigeria is blessed with land, luckily. So it's just the political will to do the right thing. Okay,
so it may be hard doing that with already developed areas, but for the interior that can be corrected for future use.
Yeah, we would always have lands. Then we talk about the Osioma power plant. So I think government has just have to prioritize. So I think it's all about prioritization. Where are we putting manufacturing? Where are we putting it in our heads? Where is government putting manufacturing in our head? We look at the GDP figures. I was going through. We have just about 40-something sectors that contributed to this GDP, and we are talking of an economy as big as Nigeria. We should be talking about 60, 70 sectors. Not just the sectors. What happens to space technology, to aeronautics, to robotic engineering, so even education. There was a report that was just published about last week that said that 28 billion within the last 10 years that Nigerians have taken out in terms of forex to countries for educational purpose. So it shows that, look at those countries, look at UK. Education is among the first 3 contributors to their GDP. So it shows that there's so much that we can do to contribute to GDP. Just outside agriculture, telecommunications, and oil is, in fact, oil has now showed us very plainly now that it's almost time for us to allow it go, because it's minus 12.65. That has been one of the lowest that we have had in a long while. Look at the outlook. I talked to you about the American GDP figures. Health is the first contributor to their GDP. Technology was the second, contributing about 12%. Construction, we think that a country like America is already well set up, has been constructed with all the infrastructure. What else do you have to construct? But it contributed to the third largest contributor to their GDP.
Upgrading of infrastructure.
Exactly, so about 12%. Then the fourth was a retail business, of course, which we should have. Supermarket, large chain supermarket. At a time, we had Leventis in Benin, Carol stores. We had this. So retail business was the fourth largest to American economy, including Amazon's, eBay, and the rest. Then non-manufacturing companies. So I think we have to go beyond our regular sectors contributing to GDP.
Okay, so now let's talk about the VAT war. Wow, that has been very, very interesting, and then more issues are coming up from there. Initially, the VAT war started with Rivers State's government taking the FRS to court over who to collect VAT. And then the Rivers State High Court gave the verdict in favor of Rivers State government that they have the power to collect VAT generated in their area. I know that judgment will be appealed by the federal agency. Now, once Rivers State did that, it seemed like the other states woke up. We have Lagos State considering a bill to support VAT collection by the state government that's passed second reading. And then we have Adamawa State in the north backing River State. We also have Akwa Ibom State backing them up. And some other states saying they are, state like Benue, considering, studying the issue to actually know where they would fall at the end of the day in terms of decision making regarding the current situation. Now, what's your take as it concerns collection of VAT? The FIRS has been doing this all along, but right now some states are beginning to say we want to collect our VATs. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as you said, Lagos State have done their second reading already on the bill. In fact, the committee, it was sent to the committee level, and the committee was to report back to the House yesterday, Thursday. So we expect that between now and the weekend or something, the governor should sign it into law. In fact, Ekiti and Lagos State, from the news we heard yesterday, are already planning to be joined with Rivers in the appeal against FRS. So Rivers seem to have laid the mark. The issue of VAT and FRS, it's for now it seems to be a legal issue because it seems like the lawyers are having a field day on it. But I think it's simple logic. You don't have to read law to understand what it means. The judgment said that VAT is not found in anywhere in the Constitution, not on the exclusive list, not on the current list, not on the residual list. So what that judgment even did was that it said that VAT is an illegal term for now. So it didn't even, so there's a misconception and even saying that it didn't really say that states should go and collect VAT. It just said that states should be in charge of their consumption tax. VAT is a consumption tax. So that's why it makes simple logic to say that states should collect their because consumption is not something that is done in proxy. My brother can't be in Lagos, for example, and I'm in Edosa, and he'll say, please buy bread for me and eat. Then I'll get the utility. It's a
direct thing.
Yes, I'll be filled in Lagos. No, it's where you consume it that you get the utility. It's utility, instant utility. So it only makes sense that it's collected at the point of consumption. It's a consumption tax. It's what was the former old sales tax. That the difference is that sales tax was put embedded wholesale. When you are buying bread, you buy it at 110 naira sales tax. But VAT is a tax on value added at every point of the production. So at the primary level, you pay. At the processing, it's paid. So for example, a wheat seller sells bread, wheat to a bread seller at 30 naira. So he adds 3 naira. That's 33 naira. So the 3 naira is VAT. So when the baker bakes his bread, he sells to the supermarket or the retailers at 70 naira. He adds 77 naira on top. So it's 77. He pays 4 naira as VAT, included to that 3 naira that the wheat seller made. So that's 77. Then when he sells it to the direct consumer, he sells it at 100 naira, but the price is 110 naira. So you now see that 3, 4, and 7 naira
added together,
10 naira, which would have been the same thing you pay with the sales tax. So that's why in most countries like US, there's no VAT, but The judgment has said that the Rivers State government should collect its tax. So I can't understand why. But as clear as it is, also the items 58 and 59 on the Constitution says that it's only the items on the exclusive list.
Okay.
Companies gain tax, profits from companies, income tax that should be paid to the federal government.
Okay.
So you have VAT not being on the exclusive list, not being on the concurrent list, but if not on the residual list too. So that's the basis upon which the Rivers State government has gone to ask that it collects tax. Yeah, but nice as that seems, from an economic point of view,
okay,
I have my own reservations because it amounts to almost double taxation. Because when we are paying VAT now, what happens is that there's one central body, which is FRS,
okay,
collecting tax at each point. So it does not matter where I consume it. So I can take bread, if I've paid for tax of bread now to FRS has taken it, I go to Lagos State, tax has been paid, VAT has been paid, FRS has, so I don't have to pay when I go to Lagos State again, because FRS is a central body that collects.
Okay,
but
like for instance, let's say you buy in Benin,
yeah,
and you go over to Lagos, maybe,
yeah,
to resell.
Yes, to
you
resell.
do not have to pay
I
VAT again,
yeah,
as it would be if states begin to collect VAT.
Of course.
Okay.
Because so and so, whichever name of bakery has paid VAT at the point of production,
okay,
to a central body nationally. But now when you now have states collecting VAT, obviously it means that every state now has its internal revenue service in charge of VAT.
Okay.
Every state wants to make money. So if probably I order, let's even leave the physical bread, I order a cloth or whatever online from Abuja,
okay,
and they are to send it to Benin. At the point of buying at Abuja, they collect their VAT at Abuja.
okay,
Coming to Benin, I have to pay VAT again.
okay.
If for whatever reason I take it on, I have to pay wherever I'm selling. So it now amounts to the issue of double taxation now comes
which would automatically increase the price of goods and services.
Of the goods. And automatically the consumer is the one who suffers all these losses.
Okay.
He pays at different stage and it increases the cost of these goods, as you said. So that's another increased cost of living. So that's the problem I have with the fact that each state has to collect its own tax. And the fact that there may now be an arbitrary increase in tax rates, in VAT rates.
Okay.
Yeah, because you now have every state is now in charge of administering its own VAT, just like we talked about the global tax war of the other time, some 2-3 weeks ago. So a state like probably Lagos that sees that their VAT, the VAT that was collected from Lagos happens to be 46.4 billion. So a state like Lagos that sees that its VAT rate is high, he said the industry is high, it can decide to increase its VAT to like 15%, because it knows that the companies there's a market, it's not easy for them to leave. Then another state like probably Nasarawa that is struggling with might reduce its VAT to probably 10%. So all that might just cause some kind of chaos, and so the uniform 7.5 that we enjoyed, that might also be at risk. And you know this will also have effect on the company. So I would have thought that there should have been a political solution. FRS for me should have sensed this coming. Because I remember there was a similar court case in December, one Okala versus FRS too. Just that the court ruled out that he lacked the jurisdiction, the whatever to bring up such case. He was not a party, unlike Rivers State now that is a government, that is a party to the VAT. So I thought that FRS should have seen all this coming and should have called stakeholders and come to a roundtable discussion about it, because right now the case can go for as long as possible, and the companies in these various states, that's what we're talking about, investment in Nigeria being a little bit toxic. Okay. Now these companies are almost at a loss of what to do. It's like they're between the rock and a hard place, because now the Rivers State government and most states, as most states will do, have now told them that from September they have to pay their VAT to the state revenue service. In fact, the Rivers State government has threatened that they will be sealed up, companies who refuse to. But FRS is also instructing them that they will bring their demand notice to them.
Yes. Okay, I was coming to that because even after the judgment, FRS was still saying pay VAT to us, we still collect VAT. And the state's also saying that that's like a message to, a different message to one person, businesses not knowing who to pay exactly to. And like you said, the business owners being at a loss as to what to do. And if by September these issues are not clearly, why I say clearly resolved, because ordinarily by the interpretation of the judgment, it would have been assumed that states now have power to collect VAT. But if the FRS is saying pay VAT to us, and so the business owners pay to, or some business owners pay to FRS, some pay to state, or some are waiting for what states will do, and then they are penalized.
In fact, their situation is made worse with the fact that FRS applied for a stay of injunction, or stay of execution of the which an injunction, and that was like last week, and the courts refused that request. So it means that the status quo for now, as long as the latest judgment that we have is the High Court judgment that says it should not be paid. So if companies, that's why I said I really don't envy that. And that's the uncertainties that we have in Nigeria. When we talk about uncertainties,
policy
somersault and so on, uncertainties, general uncertainty, because if these companies refuse to pay, their companies, their business environment, business buildings will be shut down, as has been threatened by the Rivers State government. And if also they now decide to start paying, and this case goes to the appeal court, goes to the Supreme Court, and whatever reason the FRS wins, probably after a year,
they have to pay to the FRS all over again.
That they would have to pay, and not just pay; they will pay with penalty, because there are penalties that come with filing your tax receipt, filing it late, so that they will pay the penalties, they will pay the fines, and they will pay the interest.
That's some confusion for business owners, and I think that would even bring up more litigations, because some business will want to take the matter to court. If there is a court order now that states should collect VAT and they are paying to the state government, and then this matter goes on appeal and then goes to the Supreme Court, they now have to pay again to the FRS. What do you think that would mean for a lot of businesses if you're having to pay the same amount of money that you've already paid at a time where people were talking about pandemic issues?
So that's why I say I feel for them at this point, because there's really little they can do. The subsisting judgment right now is that they should pay to the states consumption tax, and most states have Rivers State has signed the VAT law. So it means that it's already law in Rivers State. So of course, you're not paying in Rivers State means that you are breaking the law. That's what it means.
So what's the way to go as far as this VAT war is concerned?
I would have thought. I'm talking from the point of an economist now, and the impact that it has on the economy. I talked about the fact that you now have different states collecting different interest rates, the double taxation effect on the people, and the increased cost of goods and services that is likely to. So I would have thought that a political solution should be. I was thinking yesterday, and I thought that what if FRS continues to collect this tax just for the sake of a uniform tax regime and one body collecting? Then you give back to the states 100% of what you are collecting. Not
because the issue is what comes back to the state at the end of collection.
That's what led to the whole war. You know, Rivers State says 15.1% billion is collected from them as VAT, and only 4.7 comes. That's less than 25%. Same thing as Lagos, 46.4 billion is taken from them every month, and just 9.3 comes back. That's less than even 15%. So you can understand the point from which they come from. Meanwhile, other states
do not generate as much.
Get more. So that's all about the restructuring and fiscal federalism that we have been talking about. So why not you collect these taxes, give them 100%, give them back. So all you are just doing is you are a collection agent. Collect your, as it is now, they collect 4%. So in addition to the fact that they've argued that yes, they give states, you know, the VAT comes to a pool, then they share 15% to the federal government, 50% to the states, 35% to the local government. So then they also take 4% as cost of collection. So technically the federal government gets like 19%. So collect your 4%, give 100% back to the states. Then there's what you call, you know, the VAT, just like they said, 1.5 trillion was collected as VAT the last year. But not everything is local VAT. There's what we call local VAT. Local VAT made up about 783 billion. Then there's what you call import duty VAT. That's the one that the customs take at the ports. That was about 300 and something billion. Then there's what you call non-import duty VAT, which is from international services. That's about 400 and something billion. That makes up almost 40%. So the non-import duty VAT and the import duty VAT can now be shared as in place of this VAT for the federating states.
So appropriated, whatever you're collecting as local VAT, you give to
100% to the generating states. Then the non-import and the import VAT, which is federally collected,
goes to the federal
federation account, or the consolidated revenue account, which is now shared at the FAC. Because if you look at the argument of FRS, their pain is not really the fact that the federal government would lose. Because for me, I think the federal government will even benefit more, because if you look at the contribution to VAT, Lagos contributes the highest. Abuja is second highest. So that means Abuja would, I think they are even getting less at 15%. So they will still get their very large sums of VAT. Then the import duty will still come to Abuja. Then the non-import duty will still come to them. But that's why the FRS board was trying to say that it's the federal collector on behalf of the federation and not the federal government. So what it would affect is the federation, the amount that is now shared
to other states.
Allocations. So it would reduce the amount that goes for the different allocations to the different states. So you can now take the import and the non-import duty tax to the consolidated revenue account for sharing to others, because on moral and equity ground, it really is not something that anybody would take, that you produce more and you get less. In fact, the judgment went.
But we see that happening in the oil sector. We know that 13% derivation is given to oil producing states, but it's shared among every state in Nigeria.
And that's why there still has not been peace in the oil sector. That's why the PIB is even still seen like, it seemed to even worsen the issue, because it now even went to 3%. So, and that's why we still don't have peace in the oil sector. It's just that there has seemed to be, because oil seems to be the leading revenue generation of the country, so it's difficult for the oil states to push. And it's because of this oil, I think the whole VAT, because the VAT law came in 1993, it didn't come out today. So why is it all of a sudden that we are now seeing, after almost about 28 years, so it shows that it's just grudge. It's a backlash from what the PIB, the 13% derivation has done. So every state seems to be like, okay, now let's
have control of our resource. Let's have control of what we make.
Let's look for loopholes in the constitution. I think I don't know. I don't have the legal background, but I think something about the oil, something is in the constitution. But VAT is not, the constitution
it's not specific.
It did not capture it. So that's the loophole that has been found. It's not, and FRS, that's why I said I blame FRS for most of the things. They did not think of doing a constitutional amendment all this while. To probably pass a bill to the National Assembly and say, okay, can you introduce VAT and so on into the exclusive list? Just that, of course, it would also be a Herculean tax, because, you know, for you to have an amendment, it goes to the House of Rep, would meet the National, then whatever now goes to the 36
the position of the FRS is that it has the backing of the VAT Act.
Yeah, but you know,
that's what it was relying on.
But you know what the law says is that whenever two laws or whatever come together, the constitution is supreme. Yeah, so it now falls any other, whether an act or a bylaw, an act or an edict or a decree, has to be subservient to the constitution. So that's where we are. And beyond the VAT, the court also talked about withholding tax and education tax. You know, withholding tax is probably you give a contractor. So it also means that in Edo State, I give a contractor a road to construct at 200 million. That's what the River State was saying. So the road construction has to pay 5% VAT, which is like 10 million to FRS. So the
for a project that was awarded in your state.
To now be shared among other states that are not constructing. So if another state, for example, has not carried out construction in the last 4 years, is benefiting from the construction that was done in River State or in Lagos State. So there's so much non-injustice, and I don't know
with the operation. Okay, as we wrap up, there's another argument to this, that allowing states collect VAT would just help those states that have not been contributing much to VAT to look for other ways to increase their IGR.
I think that's where I stand. It should call for creativity. Even this VAT law now that the River State government has started pushing, I think it's all because we saw that oil fell. So it affected, free money has almost come to an end. So it's even out of creativity that this judgment or this suit was even filed in the first place. So, you know, when oil has fallen, everybody is now looking for pieces from where to get money. So I think if it's done, the individual states, the different states would have to sit up.
Okay, and
even
be creative
the FRS
as well.
itself would sit
Be
up.
creative.
Yeah, we have to be creative because it would affect their revenue that come.
But if FRS sits up, don't you think taxes will increase?
Yeah, that's what that's my fear. But when I talk about creativity, I wish that their creativity won't mean that they should find new taxes, or they should increase existing tax. Creativity for me, for FRS, should be that they should increase tax efficiency. Because you look at Nigeria, we still have one of the lowest tax to GDP ratio in the world. It's just about 6%, when some countries are talking about 20. So it means collect the last kobo. Those existing tax that you are collecting, we know that there's so much leakage in the system.
So block the leakages and expand the nets.
Block the leakages and efficiently collect what you are collecting without expanding the nets to affect the individuals. Expanding the net is terrible. Yeah, exactly.
All right, this is where we leave the discussion today. Thank you very much, Dr. Sazerio, for coming on the show. It's been a wonderful discussion, like I did promise at the start of the show. My name is Blessing Aichi. I ask that you stay safe. I will see you next week.
This is ITV. Certainly the best.